Hello, we're back here. We're still in section 4.1. We're just going to be talking about simplifying an equation and then using that addition property that we learned in the last video. So if we start with a problem, which is like here, 5 times y plus 2, does it equal 6y minus 3? Now the first thing you see in here is that yes, it's an equal sign because we have an equation. And the second thing you should see is that we have parentheses. Now in this parentheses, we can't do anything with this. We cannot add or subtract until we've simplified both sides of this equation. And how we simplify it is just like using the order of operations and things that we do with that. So we cover up this equal sign and we go, what can I do with this? Can I simplify anything inside this parentheses? No. So we're going to use what we call the distributive property. And the distributive property just tells us that if we have addition or subtraction inside parentheses, then we can take whatever is outside and we can distribute it to each one of these inside. So then this would become 5y plus 10 equals. Now I'm going to use the other side over here, and I'm going to change color so you can see it. And this would be 6y times the negative 3. So this would be 6y. And 6 times a negative, positive 6 times a negative 3 would be negative 18. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. It looks like it's a little crooked on there. I apologize. Once again, let's see if I can straighten it up a little. Don't know if it will or not. I'd rather have more board. Okay, there you go. So let's carry on with this. So once we're here, we can now apply that addition property because we don't have anything else to solve here or over here. So we're going to apply the addition property, but we need to get the y's on one side and the non-y's on another side. So I'm going to move this 5y. I'm going to subtract 5 because that's a positive, and I use the opposite, which is subtract. And once again, we're going to subtract from both sides. So I'm writing down the wrong number here. Subtract 5y. What I subtract from one side, I subtract from the other side. So now this went away and I have 10 equals 6 minus 5. Yellows. Remember, we can only add and subtract variables like variables. And this is 6y minus 5y, which would be y. And I bring down what I haven't added or subtracted. You can never subtract a variable and a non-variable. So these we couldn't say is 17 or something like that. So now I still have y and I have a negative 18 on this side. So I'm going to add 18 to both sides. And I have 28 equals y, and that is my solution. Now you can always go back in there and test it, which I recommend, but for sake of time, we are going to go on since I already did show you how to add or subtract and, show you how to substitute in there. So let's do another problem here. All right. So we have negative 1/6 x minus 1/3 equals 5 over 6x plus 1/2. Okay, so here we look to see if there's anything to do on either sides when we're solving equations. So I cover up one side. That's supposed to be an equal sign. It looks like a... And can I add 5/6x plus 1/2? No, I can't because one has a variable of x and the other one doesn't. So I can't do anything with these. Over here, can I add these or subtract these? No, because one has an x and the other one doesn't. So once again, I'm going to get my x's on one side and my non-x's on the other, and we're going to do that just by adding and subtracting. So I'm going to add the 1/6 x, add 1/6 x. What's left on this side is just negative 1/3. What's left on this side, I do have the 1/2, but I have to add these fractions. And with fractions, you must have common denominators to add them or subtract them, and I do. Both of these have a common denominator of 6. So then I can just say 5 plus 1 is 6 over 6x. Now what is 6 over 6x? That is just 1, right? So I can simplify this and I go negative 1/3 equals x plus 1/2. But remember, our goal whenever we're solving equations is to always get x by itself. So I need to get rid of this positive 1/2. And how do I get rid of positive 1/2? I subtract the 1/2 from both sides. So I subtract 1/2, subtract 1/2, and I have x. Now I'm going to combine these right here. I'm going to say negative 1/3 minus 1/2, or you can say it's negative 1/3 plus a negative 1/2, or subtract 1/2. Either way. But we need to have common denominators. Right now we have a 3 and we have a 2. What's a common denominator with 3 and 2? that would be 6. Or it could be 12, or it could be 18, or it could be 24. Any multiple of 2 and or 3 would be a common denominator. So I'm just going to make these common denominators over here with 6 and 6, and I had to multiply this by 2, so this would be negative 2 over 6, and this would be times 3, so this would be negative 3. So I need to add these two together, and I get negative 2 minus 3 would be negative 5 over 6, and that would be our answer there. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to write them at the bottom, and we'll see if, I'll try my best to get them answered. Or you can always log into our office hours that I'm going to have set up through Zoom. So feel free to log in there and ask your questions, and then we'll work through them, okay? So that would be, that would be the end of that, and we'll go on to the next topic, okay? Thank you.